So to start with, we have our clay. So this is earthenware that we're using. I like to call it urban, I think it sounds a bit more modern. Now, the only reason I am using this particular clay body is my kiln is quite old. It's from the 80s and it really just does not want to ramp up to mid-fire, and it also doesn't want to ramp up to stoneware. So we are using earthenware, and it's still going to be beautiful. Look, personally, I like mid-fire. And I've used it quite a lot, but I've just realized, it just doesn't want to glaze my product super well. So anyway, we're using this. It's going to be amazing. And let's get making. So 350 grams, and we are going to be making some beautiful cups. Now I'll show you one that I've already made to give you an idea. Let me grab it. So this is one that I've already made. So we put the hole in the back, and it is a gorgeous love heart shape. Isn't it sweet? I'm thinking maybe we'll put a handle here. I don't know. I think if you were to drink this, you're kind of obviously drinking from here. So obviously the handle needs to be on the side or something. But we will see. Maybe I'll just do a really cute love heart handle because it will go with my whole theme. So that's what that one looks like. This one is still drying. I made this one yesterday, and I've made another, I think I've made 8 or so today, maybe 7 today, and I want to make some more. And this is like a really good height. It's not a massive big one, because I just think in Australia, generally a lot of people, we don't drink out of, massive mugs here. We just don't. So I think, 250, 300 mils is pretty normal for, a cup mug size. And people have said, can you make it a bit fun? So the straw's in there, and I said, sure, let's make something fun. So anyway, that one is doing that. Another thing you can also do is you can make it, and then you can trim it on the wheel, and then you can bend it in. But you need to make sure it's still a little flexible, because it can crack doing that. So it is definitely better to do it when it's a little softer. And we can still trim around here. But anyway, I will show you how I've done that so that we can kind of get away without trimming too much later on. But anyway, let's get making. So now my wheel here, this is a Viva wheel. This is a cheap $300 wheel. I make all my pottery on it. So if you want to give pottery a go, don't feel that you need to get a $2,000 wheel. You definitely do not need to do that. And this is obviously off center. I've just sort of pushed my hands around the bottom to make it stick a little bit better, because basically what I want to do is we just want to cone up, I want to cone down, and I want to make sure that all of the clay is aligned really well. This clay is out of the bag, it's not reclaimed, so it is much easier to work with than reclaimed. Reclaimed can be quite soft, but if it's too soft, you can just pop it on a plaster bat and it will harden up a little bit. So you can make your own plaster bat. So anyway, we've just got to cone up and down a few times. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's just center it. And I have only been making pottery on the wheel since December last year. And what are we up to now? We're in June. So about 6 months. But in that 6 months, I have made, I reckon, about 600-700 pots probably. And it's good to make lots of pots because it gives you a chance to make lots of mistakes and learn. So that's definitely what I prefer to do. And you know what? It's not a mistake because it's all a learning thing. And also, what actually happens when you do things like that is you learn of a mistake that you make. You'll fix it or find a solution, and and you just get better. So I don't like the word practice makes perfect, because what's perfect? Nothing. And I'm turning my Viva wheel down to 160 so that I can pull up the sides. So the only thing that I will say about these Viva wheels, and Viva has not sponsored me or anything for this one. They did sponsor me for another wheel I did a while back, but this is just my opinion on these wheels. Yeah, one thing is they don't come with like feet on them to make them the right height. So you kind of have to make your own makeshift table. And the only table I could find was this Kmart plastic one that's under it at the moment, and it is not the right size. So basically what I do is I pull up the walls as best I can, and then I stand up overhead, and then I pull the rest of the walls up. Now, if you're not comfortable standing up, that's okay, but I've just got really used to it, and I feel comfortable to do that, but I kind of like just, you have to be a bit strict and tuck your hands in like a penguin or your arms down. And so now I'll show you, I've got it to that level, and so this is pretty much what I do. Just putting lots of water on it, and I just basically pull the walls up, and I know it's doing a bit of a wobbly dobbly. It is what it is. And one thing I wish I was really good at is being able to do a whole heap exactly the same, but that will come. I mean, it will definitely come. That's not enough water on that. Now, one thing is too, don't be hard on yourself. If something doesn't work, it doesn't matter. We can squish this and redo it again. You know, so if something really isn't going to work, there is no problem us redoing it again. And I feel like that's as good as I'm going to get with this one. I can see here it's a bit thin at the bottom. That happens sometimes when you're like me and you're still not perfect with it. But you know what? I always say don't squish it until you have a play with it first. So we're just going to use this little tool, which is this one here I'm using. And any bit I scrape off, I'm just going to put it into the container. The good thing is with using these tools as well, you just can practice. You know, if this all went to fail, well, who cares? We pull it apart and fix it again. So I'm just going to use this tool just to get all the slip and anything off. And sometimes if you make a mistake, this can fix it, sometimes not. Now, can you see how it's a bit crazy now? It's no good now. I can tell that's going to be a fail. So we will just take this one off. We can totally recycle that. Let's pop this on, get the next one. It's the first fail I've had today. So I can't whinge. But I want to make another 5 today. That's my goal anyhow. So, and I'll show you after. We'll go to the other room where I've got the others. Now when I'm doing this, I've just pushed my hand to the bottom so it sticks to the wheel, if you can kind of see this bit here. And as I said, you know, I'm no expert, but hopefully we can all learn things, you know. And I was thinking of this. I thought, oh, do I do a video where I'm actually, I feel like I'm giving advice, but not, if that makes sense. And then I'm like, but you know, I'm not like a master potter or anything. But then my husband said, well, people might like that coming from someone that's, you know, newer. Because sometimes I think when we watch people that are really good, it's so hard. Because then you think, oh, I wish I was as good as that, you know, and it makes you kind of doubt yourself a little. Anyway, that's just my thought on that anyway, my loves. And so now I'm just going to compact the bottom a little bit. I'm going to leave a thicker bottom because I want to, I'd like to have a thicker bottom on it in case I want to trim it a bit more. Now on these Viva wheels, you definitely need to clean them are still going along. They do leak. They definitely leak. And silly me, I almost started pulling up the walls at the high speed. And we can't do that because that won't work. That will make things very difficult indeed. So anyway, we're at 160 on the Viva wheel now. And as I said earlier, I start doing this, pulling the walls up from this angle because I'm really not at the best angle because of the table not being the right height. But then I stand over the top once I pull the walls up to a certain bit. And then I do the rest. It's probably not the best solution, but it is working for me at the moment. So, and then I just have a little Kmart stool I sit on, just one of their little wooden ones. Actually, I think of them right, it's a bathroom stool. Now, I can already feel with this, can you see how this is like, it's moving so much, it's off center. So we might have a second disaster on our hands. But sometimes I feel like by persisting is learning. It is definitely not good because I can even see on the top that, and the problem with when it's not centered is it means the top lip, one side will be fat and one will be thin. Sometimes you can save it. I don't feel like this is going to be saved, but stranger things have happened. Yeah, it's not good. All right, let's start again. So you can see one side is too thick to the other, so poo. Let's start again. All right, I am going to let this camera roll and we're going to see if we can get a good result. Because I'm not feeling confident at the moment. Oh my goodness. See, I should have been filming before instead of being on TikTok. I was on TikTok earlier doing a video and I didn't have one failure. My goodness me, what is happening to me? I'm losing the plot today. And this is already off center, which isn't good. But sometimes what you can do is you can actually use this. It can actually help you center it again. It really can. It can help you fix it. Let's go. Fingers crossed, boys and girls. If not, I'm having a rest. I'm going to watch Netflix. All right, I'm thinking this is as good as I'm going to get with this one. I don't want to keep doing it and ruin it. So let's just clean everything else up. And let's do the bottom. This is what I said, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I am the most confident potter, but you know, practice makes better. I don't like to use the word perfect because that's not true. That would make me a liar. Anyway, and it doesn't matter if it's not perfect at the top either, because I'm actually going to alter this by putting a love heart, which means I have to bend the top of it anyway, so it doesn't matter so much. Right, so we do have one of these. We're just going to get rid of some of the slip and the messiness, and we will see how neat we can fix this. And, you know, if we can't, it doesn't matter. So sometimes when you think, oh, this is a disaster, I can't fix it, sometimes you can. So you can see I've kind of pulled it out and made it better, that's for sure. All right, I just want to pull this out a little bit. All right, that's fine for now. So we've got the slip off, and even though the top's not perfect, it doesn't matter because we are doing a love heart, silly thing, love heart container. So we have done this little one. It's nice and smooth, so I can paint pictures on the bottom, because usually the bottom I'm going to do some sort of painting, and I'll seal it because I'm going to leave part of it raw and then the other part's going to sort of be glazed. So anyway, this one is looking a bit beautiful, isn't it? So let's pop this out on the table over there. We'll get going. We're going to make a few more today, and then I'm going to show you basically how I'm organizing this and how I'm making this, because I don't have those fancy tools to make the holes and everything. I basically start with a skewer and then I will show you. So there's nothing super fancy about this, but anyway, let's get going and let's keep fixing this up. I always use these two fingers to make the dip, and then these ones are kind of holding the outside. That's really why I'm just sort of guiding. I've tried so many using two thumbs, one finger, one thumb, different fingers, but anyway, this is what is working with me. This is what makes me feel the most confident. So we have this all ready. Let's fix our speed. Put a bit of water. And make sure when we're doing this, we're like pulling this in a little bit into the center. That's the goal. Almost lost my sponge when I was being a bit of a gas bagger. A talker, as we say. My dad used to say that was my best skill. I was good at talking. I probably drove him crazy. Anyway, so now, like I said, on my little wheel, I always stand up so that I can get the best result. And I don't know why. I stood up once feeling like I just could get a better result, and then I started feeling like quite confident doing it that way. So I say don't worry what everyone says, just find the way that works for you. We're all different how we like to do things. So you can see this bit here is nice and tall. I do have my sponge on a stick, which I don't use it very often. But I do want to open this up a little bit. It's a bit too narrow. So we'll definitely pop my hands in. And that is nice and tall. And we can neaten this off after. So we don't worry about it now. I'm sure lots of other people that have been making pottery for a while probably think, wow, that's a silly way to do it. But many years ago when I was doing slip casting, I remember one of my teachers saying to me, don't worry what's the norm in pottery, just do what works for you. And I thought that's kind of true. And I do agree with that, even with what I'm doing now. You know, but just remember, if I kept this super thin, the problem's going to be that it's going to shrink and then it's going to be so thin. So I am just going to kind of just open it up a little bit, just push the outside a little bit just to widen it. That's better. That's perfect for me, for what I like. And it really, look, honestly, making things is just what you like. Who says a cup has to be a certain shape or size, or it has to be comfortable to drink from? Anyway, that is pretty good, so I'm happy with that. Let's get our little silver metal rib. Which is kind of, let me find it's on the table. Yes, I have bitten my nail since I was 2 years old. Picking something up can be a hassle sometimes with no nails. Anyway, we have got this now. So make sure, one thing that I didn't do for a while is, you know, you kind of want it to be a little wet. So then we're just literally going to hold it. And you know what? When I first started making pottery, I used to watch people do this, and I used to say, God, I'm never going to be good enough to be able to do that. To like even get, you know, the sludge off, because they used to make it so perfect, and I think I just can't do that. So, you know, you really do learn so much the more you practice. So, yeah. Anyway, this is pretty good, isn't it? I'm happy with this. We will pop this one over on the pile. We started with a disaster. We kept going, and it got good. You know, I took a little break, washed my hands and came back. Sometimes that's what we need to do if things aren't going well, but definitely need to clean the wheel. That's super important. Anyway, this is beautiful. How cool is that? Very proud of myself, because in the past in my life I would have given up. You know? So this is it's looking pretty good, isn't it? So I'm going to pop this with the other ones and we'll go and do the next. So I have finished for the day. It is the evening. It is like 8 p.m. So here we go. Here they are. They have been sitting here just resting, but we want them to look like this. So it is quite simple, really. If I hold the camera over the top, basically all we're going to do is literally this. So you can see here, if I push that down, the straw bit is going to go in there, and then I'm just going to pull this forward so that it looks like a love heart. So it's as simple as that, really. And then popping, you know, a skewer in there. So I'll show you how I'm doing it. So let's just pop my little camera here, you know, on its tripod so I can show you how to actually do it. Okay, everyone. So here we go. We can see this is it here. And this is the back part of it that we already pushed over. So with me, what I actually do is I just push this down a little bit. You know, you want to give it a bit of a push, because remember, we have to have a straw go in there, and a straw is going to be probably about this size. So it's pretty much going to be here. You don't want it too close to the top. And then all I do is we get this little skewer. So we're just going to push it over a bit. I just push the skewer in, because then this, if I make a mistake, I can seal it up. So then I've got my little hole, if you can kind of see here, in that. So now we've got the hole in here, and what I do is just turn it around. You can, of course, buy some beautiful products to actually do this, but I actually don't have those. I can't afford those little cutters right now, maybe in time. So anyway, we're just going to make a little hole. Then what we want to do next, just get a paintbrush and push another one in that's a little bit bigger, just making sure that you're sort of holding this to guide it. So now we'll pop that out. So then we've made the hole bigger already. Then what I did is get another one to make this a little bit bigger again. But this is still not going to be big enough, because remember, this hole is going to shrink and then it's going to push down. So now you can kind of see already the hole is bigger. And so now what I actually do with this is I have, what is it? It's a wooden spoon, and then I just pop it through there. So let me show you. Now here is a straw. This is just a silicone one that my daughter has. And if I pop it in here, it's basically the same as the paintbrush. So obviously with shrinkage, that isn't going to work. Now the back of, you know, just a wooden spoon, this is nothing exciting. You can literally just twist the wooden spoon, keep twisting it so that it goes in the hole. And then you know that that hole is going to be pretty big, and the time that seals up, and then pop this in, and you can see that it quite easily fits in there. So then at the back of it, we just want to, you know, move away the messy bit at the back. Just neaten that up, and don't worry too much, because you're not really going to see it, because we're going to bend this over. Remember, it's going to kind of be like this, because when somebody uses this, this is literally what's going to happen. It's going to have the straw in here. So now that we've done that, once again, we want to make sure we're pushing this in. And this is, it's quite soft still, the clay. Don't do this when it's too hard or leather hard, because you might actually crack it. And basically, if I can kind of show you, you can see the hole. So that is my fix-it kind of way to be able to do that. And then at the back of it, I'm just going to neaten the hole off a bit. Fold away all the old clay away from the edge. We'll neaten off these edges, but we can fix any of this later. Just give that a little bend, and then as you can see, it's looking super cool. And this is in here. And now what you want to do is you want to make sure that there is definitely like at least 1 millimeter or so on the edge. And then I just go back in with my kebab stick, and then just kind of like, you go around the edges, neaten it off, just make it a tiny bit bigger. Better too big than too small. If you do this and it's too small, you'll be just kicking yourself, and you'll be like, oh no, I should have made that bigger. Anyway, that is it. So like I said, and then we double check again. Our straw quite easily fits in there. There's a big movement in there, and then our mug is definitely the right shape. So let me just show you. This is kind of what it's going to look like from the back, and then it's looking ready. So now it is evening, but I thought you might want to look at the top, and I'm sorry about the shadows, but this is my heart one, and you don't have to do this a heart. So if you want it just round, just push it back in. But mine are going to be heart shaped because I just wanted them to be a little different. Just neaten off this, but once it's dried, you know, you can just get the wet sponge and go around the edge. Make sure this is neat, and you can see there's still a bit of movement here. And I will show you, I'm kind of doing this backwards. Can you see like there's a big gap here? So that's going to be fine with the shrinkage. And we'll just neaten it off and, you know, just give it a bit of a push because we want it to be that heart shape, and it looks beautiful. So I'm going to leave this now. We're going to let that dry, and I'm going to do the next one. Okay, everyone, we are on to the last stretch of these gorgeous little mugs. So you've seen me make them. I actually did just trim them on the wheel. I kind of forgot about doing that. I did do a TikTok video a bit about this. But anyway, my symbol is on the bottom. We have trimmed it as best we can. Of course, it's tricky because we're sitting it upside down. The little hole is all beautiful. It's nice and smooth. And now it's time for the handles. So I couldn't decide whether to put a handle, whether to not. But then I think, look, I will. So in front of me here, I have rolled my handle. So I roll all of my own. I don't have an extruder to do this. I have a really tiny extruder, but I bought it anyway. It's just too small. So, but I do it by hand, and that's fine. So I was thinking, how am I going to do this? Anyway, I have these little love heart sprigs that I made. So basically, this is the idea, to have them sitting just like that. Aren't they going to be cute? They're going to be so beautiful with this little butterfly. So I've popped them here. So I'm going to just move this out of the way. I just put one on to see if I liked it. The others I'll put on when this is dry. So these are quite, you know, messy. Sorry, not messy. What's the word? They're wet. So, gosh, my brain is not here at the moment, I swear. Seriously, having high blood pressure makes your brain do tricks. You know? Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so we've done that. So, basically, what I've done when I make the handles, I do one and then I kind of like bend it the way I want, and just to see if that's, you know, kind of roughly where the handle's going to be. And then you can sit them on the table, or you can lie them. So even though I've made them and I sit them like this, you don't have to. You could sit them like that if you really want to, which I've done before. And then I do like to sit them on this board, which this is just like a, I think it's like a chipboard or something. I can't remember what board this is. Anyway, just from your local hardware store, and it does absorb some of the water. So you can see the little water patches here from where I've rolled them. So basically, that's the way it is. Now, this is the little sprig I made. So you can have anything around the house. So say I wanted to make a sprig of this stick, I would literally push the stick in, fire this piece to make sure it's bisque, and then we can get our little butterfly. So I will do one today to show you. So what have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 handles sitting here. I need 9 in total. So I've got my clay here. Make sure you use the same clay that you used when you actually made your piece. So this is earthenware. Walker's is what I'm using. And so just going to grab enough. That's probably not enough. Just to do one handle at a time. You can do more, but I just do one. Roll it up into a ball, into your hand. It's just a rough ball, isn't it? So, and then in your fingers, if you just try not to do the palms, because your palms will flatten it a bit. Anyway, and then we're just literally going to do that and put it on the table. And what you want to do is, like, with your fingers, go back and forward and keep moving. So go to that side, because then what's actually happening is you're making this round. The minute you push onto your palms, it flattens it out. And I kept having that happen all the time. I thought, why? Anyway, and then I was just playing around, and then I soon seen the right way. But, you know, maybe you want a flat handle. I've done flat handles before. They do look really nice. But I just kind of found with this, with the roundness, that's what we want. So this is basically my handle. It's definitely going to be chunky, but that's okay. That's kind of what I want for these. So now I've got this one, which is the one I did before. And it's good to have one, and then you're just going to use this as a bit of a template. So what have we got now? 6. We need 9 in total. And then I'm going to just repeat this process, obviously to, you know, like to get the handles right. And I always do the first little bit to make a little barrel, kind of like, it kind of looks of something unsavory, you know. So we're just going to roll it. So like I said, rolling from one side to the other and keep going, that's basically the way we do it. And I think I said earlier in this video, this is not my job, this is my hobby. So I've had a few people asking me about that actually. And I said, no, it's my hobby. I used to be a soap maker. That was my job, but the soap industry's taken a dive. So I've decided I just need to do things that make me a little happy. And I'm in my 50s, so I think when you're in your 50s, it makes you rethink things a little bit more, you know. So I've got this one here. Like I said, I'm just going to use that as a template, cut the sides off. And basically, you don't need to be perfect on the sides, because what I do is I always trim them again anyway before they go onto the piece. So now we don't have as many as we want, but let me just stand these up while we're doing this, because I want them to just dry out a little bit, and then we're going to stick them on the piece later. So I'm going to let them dry out standing here for a couple hours. It's very cold today in Gippsland, so this will take a few hours. And I'm going to stand them there. But now what I want to show you, is that you don't have to be bored and just watch me simply roll clay, is I'll get one that I made before, which is still quite, it's very, very flexible. So I'll show you how I made this. So we've got our little handle, and now we've got our little sprig. So what we're going to do is just get some clay. You really want to have enough clay to fill it. I can tell that's a lot, so we'll just take a big chunk off the top. And now it will try and come out of the mold, so just make sure you're kind of holding the clay. And that's the whole purpose of doing these in like a little bisque mold like I've made, because you know, you want it to come out. You don't want to do a mold like plastic and it gets stuck and you just can't get it out. You can see it just easily pulled out when I'm pushing it, but I want to just push it so I get the right shape. We can trim it later, which is what I'm going to do. So you can kind of see it's the right shape, and what I'm going to do is just like go along the edge, just remove anything that you think is like a little messy in there, which that bit was, but I'm going to trim it anyway. All right, so now that's pretty good. To get it out, it's not just going to fall out. You need another piece of clay to kind of pull it out like that, and then just take that bit off. Let me seal this in the bag. All right, so we'll seal that in there. So we'll move that away. So now we do have, and excuse my disgusting fingers, full of clay and whatever else. And yes, I am a nail biter. I've bitten my nails. How old am I? Almost 53. So 51 years. So nothing's going to change. And I always say that because I often have people make a comment. But my nails don't grow properly anymore. Once you've bitten them, they really don't. So anyway, let's just, now that we've addressed that, because I know I'll get a comment, I always do. So you want to make sure there's no cracks. If there's cracks in it, fix it. So we've got our butterfly, and now what we want to do, because I want this butterfly to sit up on it, so I'm just going to like put its wings slightly in the air and just do a little push in the middle. Now can you kind of see how he's sitting up? And then what we want to do, you have to remember that the mug, we're doing the handle upside down almost, because if you have a handle like this and you put that here, you got to remember that person is going to grab the butterfly. So you kind of want it at the top so it's not in the way, which I'll show you what I mean. So this is the mug. let's just take it out. Sometimes it's better to have a mug to show you. You want to also put it on here and go, yep, that looks good. So if, for instance, I'm just going to hold that roughly, and you know it's going to sit like this on the handle. Okay, so let's move that. I'll just put the mug aside for a second. So what we want to do is put him basically here. So this is still very, very flexible, and usually I'd wait till this dries a bit, but I'm doing this and it's not going to hurt it. Just do a little score mark on this. Do a little score in the middle of my butterfly. Make sure it's not cracked. If it cracks, it will not work. It will just break. So, and make sure your butterfly's a bit thick. That's why he's really thick. If he was thin, he would just break. So then basically what we're going to do is just put a little slip. We've slipped him on. Now don't put him right at the end because we're going to need to attach that to the mug. And then basically this is the little handle. So, and then we know we're just going to set it here. And both the handle and the butterfly is sort of wet at the same time. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there and sit there. And then when they're all ready, we are going to attach it to this, which is going to be super fun. So I'll bring back to show you, once these are dry enough, how we're going to attach it.